everybody, my name is Christina Tamblin and today I will be discussing the expectation gaps between stakeholders and web-based corporate public relations efforts, focusing on Fortune 500 corporate websites. I'm just going to go through some objectives of my presentation, which is to define stakeholder theory, discuss internet-based communication, identify research questions, and then discuss the research findings. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the stakeholder theory, which is the relationship between an organisation and its stakeholders. So I've just got a definition of what a stakeholder is, as in the case study. So those groups and individuals that can affect or are affected by the accomplishment of organisational purpose. I'm also going to then talk about your primary stakeholders, which are your employees, investors, customers. These are crucial for the success of a business or organisation. And then your secondary stakeholders, which is your media, activists and competitors. These may influence the organisation, but they are not crucial to the success. Organisations need to build strong channels of communications with their stakeholders, as stakeholders have the possible power to affect the organisation. So it's important to identify who has the power. In some circumstances, an organisation will hold the power and they will decide where the organisation is heading. In other organisations, the stakeholders could be the ones that have the power and determine the organisation's pathway. Now I'll be talking about web-based communication. There's large amounts of information which can be provided on the internet to stakeholders at lower cost and quicker than traditional means. So there's two types of media. There's your non-traditional media, such as Facebook, Twitter and blogs, and then traditional media, which is your newspapers and television. Traditional media tends to be relatively slow in the fact that a newspaper gets published once a day and the news is on once a night. So the internet can be immediate and is an efficient, effective channel of communication. The internet can increase the effectiveness of an organisation's communication strategy, and information can be distributed to more primary stakeholders as well as secondary stakeholder more rapidly than traditional means. Kim et al. States that PR research suggests internet communication needs to be adopted more readily. This article was published in 2010, with the original research being completed in 2009. I think that the internet has changed significantly in the last 6 to 7 years. So you have to wonder about the validity of Kim's results in today's internet competent society. The other thing that the internet has done is changed previously powerless groups into potentially powerful groups. This is because it allows for people who would not normally meet face-to-face to interact across the web, share ideas and opinions. In this context, it means that activists who may not agree with an organisation's practices can post on the web. Other people with similar ideas can join in discussions. These shared discussions can legitimise beliefs, which can lead to a loud online voice. This has the potential to destroy an organisation's reputation capital, as well as deter any potential investors. There's also a concept that I came across in the readings, which is called the echo chamber. And this is where they write online users are more likely to be active and make online submissions when they are surrounded by people who think the same as they do. They also write that people find comfort by discussing their opinions with like-minded individuals. People will follow stories and ideas that do not challenge their beliefs, but rather reinforce them. An individual's opinion is echoed and at times amplified online, leading to increased levels of activity and engagement. This is called an echo chamber. This can lead to powerless groups growing and amplifying online and eventually having an impact on the organisation's development. Now we're going to be looking at the research questions that Kim developed. They were based on the literature search that they conducted investigating the relationship between stakeholders and organisations. So the first research question, which which stakeholders' needs are more frequently addressed. The second one, each of the stakeholders, what is the most frequently addressed need for them? And the third one, is there any difference by industry type? So for any of this to make sense, we first need to look at the research question 1 and identify who the stakeholders are. So the stakeholders here are your shareholder target components, consumer target components, community members, government members, and activist members. The second research question looks at the stakeholders' needs. So with your shareholder target, we've got their needs being financial reports, stock information, stockholder service. Consumer target, product or service quality, innovativeness, market responsiveness. Community members, community environmental protection, fair labour and employment practices, community service activities. The government members, environmental regulation compliance, fair labour, trade compliance, and public health compliance. And the activist members, which is messages targeting activists about fair labour, health and other issues, proactive messages targeting activists, and reactive messages targeting activists. The third research question then looks at the industry types. So the industries are codependent on industry type. And so we've got here consumer discretionary, consumer staples, energy, financial, healthcare, infotechnology, industrials, materials, telecommunications, and your utilities. So now I'm going to move on to the analysis, and what they did was looked at Fortune 500 organisations and did a content analysis on the website communication that each of the companies generated. So the coding system was used and was kept reasonably simple. Information was coded as being present or not present. Additional analysis was conducted to determine whether the message was emphasized with graphics or hyperlinks. This was coded as 1 to 3, with 1 being low emphasis and 3 being high emphasis. Independent coders evaluated each of the corporation's websites, and intercoder reliability ranged from 0.87 to 0.97. This means that there was high reliability between the coders. And then we come to the results. So it showed that 92% addressed all 3 shareholders' needs, 20% addressed all consumer needs, 19% addressed all community needs, 0.6 addressed all government needs, and 94 did not address activist needs at all. So, what does this tell us? So it tells us that maximizing organizational profits is the most important goal for these organizations. Even though the literature states that organizations have other responsibilities, such as legal and ethical responsibility, the main focus is economic. Given the impact that activists can have on an organization, it is interesting that Fortune 500 companies do not actively engage with them. Kim et al. 2010 suggests that this is an area that needs to be developed and that focusing on issues here can potentially prevent crisis. Some industries focus more on some groups than others. However, apart from shareholders, all other groups' communication could be improved. So thank you for listening to my presentation, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.